Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Celtics Talk Radio live post-game video chat. This is monthly edition of live post-game video chat, and this is edition number 19. So after 16 games that the Celtics won, finally, Miami Heat snapped Boston Celtics winning streak. So after 16 games, after 35 days, the Celtics lost one game against Miami Heat in Miami. Last night, 98-104. The Celtics were down by 20 and they could not perform the comeback unlike some other games during the winning streak. Kyrie Irving scored 23, Jason Tatum had 4 assists, and Al Horford 9 rebounds. So after 16 games, like I said, and longest winning streaks in the last 35 years, 19 November 15th until December 23rd, 2008. And this is the second longest winning streak in the last 35 years, from October 20th, game number 3, until November 18th, 2017. And longest Celtics winning streaks, 19 games 2008, 18 games 1982, 17 games in 1959, 16 games in 1965, and finally, this is the 5th longest winning streak in Celtics history. All I can say for the beginning is, Danny and Celtics fans, first thing that we should not criticize too much the Celtics, because what they did is impressive. This is first thing. And the second thing, I really think that this loss can be good for the Celtics, because that winning streak put the Celtics into the spotlight of all national medias and all NBA fans all around the world. And the Celtics played practically every game in the regular season in November under the enormous pressure, under the hard, enormous, unnatural pressure. So I really hope, Danny, that this loss will take off our chest all national medias, all journalists from national medias and Celtics medias, all bandwagon fans, all idiots from other teams, especially Cavaliers fans. I hope that they are satisfied now when the Celtics lost, and I really hope that they will leave this team in peace. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, and national medias, please go and follow and stalk other teams like your beloved Cleveland Cavaliers, for example, Golden State Warriors champs, or Oklahoma City Thunder, or Houston Rockets, or anybody else. But leave the Celtics alone. The Celtics need a peace, and Brad Stevens need to fix some things, especially the Celtics defense, pick and roll defense, and especially the offense, half-court offense. We are very bad in the offense, 21st, 22nd in the league, and I really hope that the Celtics will have a couple of days for practice in the next couple of weeks, because the schedule is really crowded for the Celtics. What are your thoughts about the last night's loss and the winning streak in general, Danny? Because we will discuss about the winning streak, and later in the second hour we will break down the games. Couple of last games, especially the last 3, plus Toronto and Golden State Warriors wins.
Well, in my opinion, many people, of course, immediately jumped on me after the game was over yesterday, because I felt that there was a few things that caused this team to basically end up losing this game. For example, the decision made by Brad Stevens to start Aaron Baines over Marcus Morris, which in my opinion that kind of ruined the momentum and the rhythm the starting lineup has had over the last few games. Yeah, many might say that the team hasn't really had, a rhythm or momentum to start the game. But you saw in yesterday's game, Igor, Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, and Tatum really had a hard time getting to the rim. Whenever they did, they had 2 and 3 Miami Heat players surrounding them in this game. And that was mainly because of the fact that you had Aaron Baines on the floor. Al Horford yesterday only, gave you, if I'm correct, 7 points. I'm bringing up the box score here for the Celtics. He ended up getting you 7 points in 35 minutes on 3 of 10 shooting, 1 of 3 from the floor, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and of course he missed 2, critical free throws in the fourth quarter, one of them which barely grazed the rim pretty much, the very front of it. Aaron Baines playing in this game. You put him as a starter, Igor, over Marcus Morris, and Aaron Baines only gets you 2 points, taking only 3 shots, and plays only 12 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a difference between, trashing a team and someone that's just saying that these were the main reasons why you got beat. Of course, you got people who feel, Igor, that I'm literally attacking the team and trying to say it's time to, fire Brad Stevens, or some are saying that, you would prefer him as a coach over you. Ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, for you to come after me the way you did last night just proves to me that you are one of those fans, Igor, that literally can't handle criticism of your team whatsoever. Me simply pointing out, you and me, Igor, we do it on the radio show, we do it here on the video chats. So I hope none of you are gonna be watching this show because, like I said, we point out the good, but we also point out the bad. And in my opinion, that decision to start Baines, Igor, was the main thing. You scored the first 4 points, which were Kyrie Irving getting 2 quick baskets. After that, the Miami Heat took over, and you never had the lead again in that game. And that says something, especially when you got guys like Whiteside being able to leave Aaron Baines so that they can team up on Horford, Irving, Brown, and Tatum, meaning that those guys really could not get any really wide open shots and get into a groove of any kind. So hopefully for the next time we do face these guys, Brad Stevens chooses to give Marcus Morris a chance, because Marcus Morris last night off the bench did end up playing, in my opinion, probably the second best game behind Kyrie Irving, as he scored 14 points in 21 minutes on 3 of 9 shooting, and he was aggressive last night, getting to the free throw line a few times. Something like that he could have easily done for you as a starter, and for all you know, you could be walking away last night as a 17-win team right now, at least 17 in a row, rather than walking away with a team that had their streak snapped. Streaks snapped here. So again, the team, I give them credit. What they did was incredible, Igor, especially with some of the teams they beat during that stretch. Golden State, San Antonio. You're facing teams, Oklahoma City. You're facing teams that many people felt Milwaukee Bucks. You're facing teams, Igor, that nobody thought you would have a chance to beat, just because of the fact that you lost Gordon Hayward. And now you ended up beating the world champs. The only team that this team has to prove, Igor, that they can knock off is LeBron James and the Cavaliers, which is why I can't wait for January 1st, because if you can knock them off that night, that proves that you have a chance to do something big in the playoffs, and there ain't going to be no denying it. But this team, it's one game, one loss. They'll be back on track after, come tomorrow night when they play their next game. But hopefully, the bench can start getting going, because Marcus Morris, in my opinion, he was the only one, along with Marcus Smart, who seems to be getting back into rhythm for the most part. Those guys have to do something. If, Marcus Morris is going to start, somebody else other than Smart has to get going and help the bench, because that's another thing. Our bench, Igor, last night was horrendous. If it wasn't for Marcus Morris and Smart doing what they did, the bench basically would have, this game would have been a little bit, more of a blowout than it was being a close game at the very end. But the team, there ain't nobody in the country, Igor, that can deny that this team doesn't belong to be where they currently stand as the top team in the NBA right now with the record, and at the same time being put in that discussion for a possible NBA champion this year.
And just to clear the situation, prior to the game, from our friend reporter Jay King, we heard the news that Marcus Morris felt the knee problems again, sadly. And this was one of the reasons, besides basketball reasons, why Brad Stevens, I think, put Marcus Morris on the bench. I mean, I'm totally okay Marcus Morris not to play the games if he feels the pain, because he's really valuable player, top 4 the Celtics players in my opinion right now, and the starter, the legit starter, despite some idiots want to trade him on the Twitter, the Celtics writer idiots, not fans. He's top 4 Celtics players, and I'm totally okay if he miss some games, but I want him to be healthy and ready for the playoffs, because if we by any chance lose him, we will be definitely in troubles. And I was talking to Morris even before the season even started, and I said that Morris is valuable player. We discussed here in the season preview. You can watch on the YouTube channel. This is the season preview, and you can hear our predictions that the Morris will be very important player for the Celtics. And those predictions of mine predictions and Danny's predictions are true. You saw that Morris is very good player, and I really don't understand why some idiots are trashing Morris and want to trade him on the Twitter. Anyway, here is interesting statistics about the Celtics, Daniel. Let's talk about the statistics a little. And the Celtics are 7th in the league in passes made in losses. 7th. But the Celtics are 21st in the league in passes made in wins. This is strange. I'm not even going to pretend that I understand what does it mean. So when we pass the ball more, 3 times more than usually, we lose. But when we are 21st in passes, we win. This is strange. And in their last 15 games, not Miami included, the Celtics are 19th in the passes made. 19th. Behind the Cavaliers. Cavaliers are 18th and the Celtics 19th. The Celtics are 16th in the league in catch and shoot attempts. Behind the Cavaliers and the Thunder. So 16th in the league in catch and shoot attempts. In terms of catch and shoot 3 points attempts, the Celtics are 15th. So catch and shoot 3 points attempt, the Celtics are 15th. What is interesting is that Warriors are dead last in the league in drives to the basket per game. The dead last in the league in drives per basket to the basket per game. The Celtics are 26th and Cavaliers are 28th. The Celtics are 3rd in the league in attempted shoots with close defenders all 2 feet away. The Celtics are 3rd in the league in attempted shoots when the defender is 2 feet away from the shooter. But the Celtics are 11th in the league in taking shoots classified more than 2 feet or classified as wide open. We are 11th in taking open shoots. This is not good, and we must take more open shoots. Out of those wide open shoots, and again, we are 11th in the league in taking shoots classified as wide open. but out of those wide open shoots, more than 2 feet away defender, the Celtics are 28 in efficiency field goal percent of the wide open shoots made. 28. So the Celtics are 10th in the league in wide open 3 points attempts, 10th in the league in 3 points attempt wide open, and 11th in the league in all shoots wide open attempts. Also, the Celtics ranked 29th, the 3 points percent out of the 29th in the league in 3-point percent made out of the wide open 3-pointers. 29th. Only the Lakers are worse in 3 points wide open made percent. So essentially, they are top team in holding the ball for longer than 6 seconds. The trend here is that the Boston doesn't move the ball nearly as much as last year, but still had the Celtics still had similar shooting issues like last year. They are defensively juggernauts, and they limit possessions and shunt rebounding. The Celtics are 7th in isolation frequency. 45% of attacks isolations. They are 7th in isolation frequency. They are 10th in attempts out of handoff plays. Out of handoff plays, the Celtics are 10th in the league. 48.3% percentile. The Celtics are 9th in the spot-up frequency, 34.5% spot-up frequency, number 9 in the NBA. The Celtics are 26th in the effective field goal percent, 26. The Celtics are 10th in the leagues at attempts at the league, and 29th in the league in finishing at the rim. 29th in the league in finishing at the rim. Last year, the league average from 3 was about 36%. This year, we have 20 teams that are shooting for 3, 36% and better. The Lakers are the only team in the league that are shooting 33% from 3. And the Warriors are the most efficient mid-range team in the league, which is interesting. So essentially, we cannot hit a damn wide open shoot. And once that rounds out to the normal numbers, the Celtics are going to be more serious team. But that is the thing. Irving is definitely going to improve. But outside of Irving, who else is actually set to take a lead? I mean, Tatum, Brown, Morris, and Horford are shooting well. Are we expecting the jump in shooting from Smart, who is terrible, by the way, in shooting, Rozier, Shemi Ojule, or Abdel Nader, or Aaron Baines? Are we expecting from those guys, especially bench, to take a leap in shooting? And I will stop here, and I want to ask you, Danny, what do you think about my informations that I dig out of basketballreferences.com about the Celtics' not so good offense?
Well, I said it yesterday, that when it came to the decision for Baines to play over Morris, the Celtics offense was questionable pretty much going into the game. By putting Baines in over Morris, you made it worse. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, proves I was right in this situation. Unfortunately, Igor, one of the things that I see about this team that I feel Brad Stevens does have to, fix is the fact that you mentioned the passing. We don't really have many shots that go, quickly to somebody, for a stand-up shot and quickly get it off. You got passing after passing after passing, one pass to the next man, so the ball touches 3, 4, 5 different guys before a shot is taken. Unfortunately, some of our guys, unlike Kyrie Irving is the only one I can say on this team that doesn't have this issue for the most part. He will take the ball and shoot it, even if it's 10, 15 feet beyond the three-point line. He will take the shot. The rest of the guys appear hesitant, especially the young guys. But of course, again, they're young, first, second-year players. It's going to take a while for them to break out of that. You know, they don't want to go taking what they might think is a stupid shot, worry that the fans, the coach, the veterans basically will get on them for it. But it comes a point where you got to realize, if you got a shot that you know you've been able to make, especially, let's say, in practice, take it. Don't go waiting, hoping that basically, oh, I got a defender coming to me, I don't want to go the route of shooting, so I'll try to give it to the next man, because the shot you just had might have been way better than the one they had, because for all you know, while you're passing the ball, the defender might just get over to them, and now they're taking a contested 3 in the corner, or a contested 2, you know, with their back to the rim, something like that. You know, this team, some of these guys have got to get aggressive and start making some shots by taking the first shot when it's available. Don't go looking, you know, because there's only a few teams, Igor, that we can say in the history of this Celtics franchise, or even in the history of the NBA. You know, look at it, you can say, let's say the league right now. There's only a few teams that can go like that, where they can make several passes and simply shoot without worrying, because odds are the shot's going to go in. One of those teams is the Golden State Warriors. That's why their team is the best offense in the NBA, because you got 4 legit all-stars in that starting lineup who, you know, at least 1 or 2 are always on the floor throughout the game in this case. So no matter where they're shooting from or what the conditions are, odds are the shot is going to go in, you know. But with us, you're talking about first and second year players, guys who are even younger than I am, and I'm 27 in this case, you know. So these guys really have got to get some time to actually going, you know, to get going and get used to attacking the rim, or get some confidence in themselves to just let the shot go and live with the results. You do not know, Igor, how many times me and my father are yelling at the television in our living room, watching, let's say, like Jaylen Brown get the ball given to him, and he's got a wide open shot, and he passes it up just to attack the rim and gets called for an offensive foul. You know, you do that when you got the defender in front of you and you drive around him. You don't do it when there's no man anywhere near you, and then you go the route, you know, of passing up a wide open 3, because, come on, Jalen, we know you can make that. Same thing with Tatum, same thing with Smart, same thing with Rozier, Ojale, you name it. You know, these guys have got to get some sort of confidence in themselves, and I think that starts with Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens has got to do something to get these guys to realize, you know, if you take a wide open shot that we know you can make, we're not going to penalize you. We're not going to throw you in a jail cell or anything like that just for basically missing the shot. If anything, we want you to keep taking it, because eventually those shots are going to fall, like you said, Igor. And once you get more confident and the shots start going down, you're going to become an offensive threat that's just going to make it where our other guys, who are the stars of this team, are going to be even more dangerous now, because if the teams decide they're just going to keep leaving you open, you're going to make them pay for it. And if they decide to defend you, that's just going to make our veterans be able to go and do their business, going one-on-one and attacking their defenders. You know, so that, Igor, is something that, again, we all know what it is. Our guys are just hesitant to shoot at times. And unfortunately, Brad Stevens has got to find a way to get those young guys to break out of that funk, worrying about, oh, I don't think I can make it, so I'm not going to want to shoot. But again, we all know that the offense was questionable coming in. Gordon Hayward was probably, you know, I can say was probably your best shooter coming into this season. Some might argue that maybe it's Irving, but those two guys were your top 2 shooters, and now you ended up losing Hayward at the start of the season. You don't have anybody else on that roster right now that comes anywhere near what Gordon Hayward was going to be able to bring you. You know, come next season, who knows? This is where I think, Igor, that disabled player exception is going to be critical. Because Brad Stevens, whether he gets another guard, a small forward, or a big. It's got to be somebody who has some sort of offensive game that, and especially if it's someone that can bring a 3-point shot to the team, but somebody who can try to get the load off of Al Horford and Kyrie Irving. That's what needs to be done. And in my opinion, Igor, Ainge can go wait all the way to the trade deadline if he wants. But right now, people say, Igor, we're only where we're at because we've had an easy schedule. That's the way people look at this team. Regardless of the fact that you've knocked off some of the top teams in the NBA, you're still not getting the respect. AKA Charles Barkley is the biggest, critic of you right now. Yeah. In order for you to actually prove these people wrong, you got to continue to beat those top teams. And if your offense is not bringing its A game, like last night it didn't bring it, you cannot continue to keep banking on the defense being, there and being able to stop. Some say you were lucky to knock off Golden State. And in a way, you can say it's probably true. You look at, I'm someone, and again, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I say, unlike most people, I'm not no hypocrite. I have blamed the officials every time we've lost to LeBron and them, and I see LeBron's team taking 40 free throws to us taking 20, and say that's the only reason why you won. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, I am willing to admit when the free throw situation is what ends up getting you the victory. In that game, you took way more free throws than Golden State and managed to only win by a few points, proving Golden State, despite the fact that you held them down, were the better team shooting that night in this case. So you cannot continue to bank on your defense holding guys like Curry and Durant and Green and Thompson down like you did that night, especially knowing that the next time you play them, it's in Golden State. It's not in Boston. So Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge have got to do something to get this offense going to try and catch up to the defense, because the defense odds are it's not going to remain on this type of status, this elite, the rest of the season, ladies and gentlemen. And deep down, you know it. There are not too many teams that can sustain this type of intensity on the defensive end.
Okay, let's talk about the next stuff. Like you said, the Celtics as bona fide title contenders, still some no-sayers. It is time to say no to the no-sayers. A number of skeptics just cannot buy the fact that Danny Ainge has quickly constructed a potent team of youngsters and the stars to build the new team this season, and that Brad Stevens has effectively transformed those players and bunch of newcomers into the group and cohesive unit. Let me introduce our guest, no-sayer, and hear what Mr. S.A.'s Andrew Sharp has to say. The basic question being discussed: what would Boston be the next team to beat Golden State Warriors in the playoffs series? That man said, the Celtics are not the best team in East, and I feel like we're going to look back and laugh at this stretch. They just feel very Hawks right now. Granted, they're Hawks with the best coach in the basketball and with Kyrie, but there are definitely some things working in their favor. But I refuse to take this team seriously. So Mr. Sharp feels the Celtics stretch is kind of laughable joke, and he refuses to take this team seriously. At least he gave credit to Irving and Stevens. But in the next quote, he apparently feels that Al Horford's terrific season thus far has been a fluke, and currently, the Celtics ended their 16 winning streak, as we know. I'm just saying that I think we are going to get to the May and look back to the first month and this fluke. And I don't think it's sustainable for Al Horford. Once they start playing really good teams, particularly in the playoffs, I don't think he could hold up and be quite dominant, and he has been. He looked awesome for them for the past couple of weeks, but that's the piece that I think will sort of come back to earth over the next few months. We will hear from Andrew one more time in a minute, but Ali's play may moderate a bit during the season, but it won't crumble. Okay, one more from Andrew Sharp. No, I think at the end it's going to be either Wizards or Cavaliers or the Raptors. Maybe not the Raptors, Wizards, Cavaliers, or Bucks even, let's say. And the Celtics will probably be in the mix. But I think the biggest takeaway from the first month is just how great their foundation is and how dangerous they will be when Hayward gets back and if they pull the trade for Anthony Davis. It's dangerous, openly court superstar, and a lot of things change, but I think that it's just so clear that Stevens is great and Kyrie, while hiding their weaknesses, and the front office is awesome, etc., etc. Adam Kaufman said, opinion, Celtics would be better team with healthy Gordon Hayward. However, I don't think they will be 16-2. Injury galvanized the group being immediately dismissed. And stop me if you hear this about Stevens, but they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. So Andrew Sharp indicates that Celtics will be dangerous with Hayward and potentially Anthony Davis. Sharp got away from the main question a bit, but it's clear that he don't believe in current Celtics team that they can defeat Warriors in the finals. Sharp lauded Coach Stevens, but neglected to add that Brad seems to have the Warriors numbers. He knows how to play them, and he has the troops to carry them. Sharp really irritated me about comments about Horford's stellar play, and he's talking about one of the most consistent players in the league. I say no to his statement. A lot of Celtics young guys, 25 and under, are being thrown into the fry of clutch time and coming out with high grades. Boston is second in percent of clutch time minutes, but by the players 25 and under. For example, Celtics clutch minutes by the players 25 or younger. The Celtics 77%, number 2, and for example Thunder 33%, 23rd, Spurs 16%, 27th, Rockets 11%, 28th, Warriors 29th, 8%, Cavaliers, guess what? 0% for the young players. So the league average is 43%, and the Celtics are having young players above the league average 77% of the minutes. So 77% of the Boston's clutch time minutes have been played by the players 25 years or younger. By comparison, Cleveland hadn't had somebody young to play more than 5 minutes and score within 5. Here is 25 and under Celtics players in the clutch. By minutes, Marcus Smart 3.8, Jason Tatum 3.8, Kyrie Irving 3.4, Jaylen Brown 2.9, Rozier 2.3, Daniel Tice 1.8, Semi Ojeleye 1.1, Shane Larkin 1. In comparisons, Lakers, under 25, they have more. A few takeaways. Not only Marcus Smart gets starters minutes, he's tied in the clutch minutes with Tatum. pretty good for the guy that cannot shoot. Enigma doesn't even come close to describe Marcus. He is unique and extremely valuable player. We are looking at two young teams. The Lakers rely heavily on their 25 and under group. In the, in the win against the Wolves, for example, the only over 25 player that plays significant minutes, 24 minutes, was Brook Lopez. Over 25 years player. The only player that played clutch minutes in Lakers win over Bulls is Brook Lopez. At the Celtics, only one is Al Horford with 32.6 minutes per game. Marcus Morris is playing 23.7 and Baines is playing 18.3. Another difference, of course, is that in win-losses records, Boston is 16-3 and Los Angeles, I don't know, 8-10, 8-11, something like that. To summarize, our team is young, but still has good mix with several older veterans. Boston trusts its youngsters with the game on the line, and the Celtics have the best records in the NBA. The Cavaliers are old, and Golden State Warriors are getting older. Trying to repeat past championships can get tiring, and it is though to combat age, particularly the elite athletes. Boston is looking very good. Look for another article today on Danny Ainge's analysis on why this is all working. NBA TV interview with Danny Ainge was fascinating. And I will stop there. So what do you think, Danny, about what I was talking here in the mix? What do you think about Mr. Sharp and all the analysts that are naysayers to the Celtics team?
When you said Sharp, you mean Shannon Sharp, right? If I'm correct.
Andrew Sharp from SA.
Okay. Well, like I said, many people, when it comes to that discussion, are still obsessed with LeBron James and what he's capable of doing. Like I said, Igor, someone like me pretty much has said on the video chat and on the radio show that I don't think we'll get past the Cavaliers this year, mainly due to the fact that we lost Hayward, and also because I'm someone that feels anytime you get involved with LeBron's team, 9 times out of 10, you're the one that's going to get screwed by the officials. You people don't think I'm telling the truth? Go back to every time. Now, of course, I'm talking just go to the LeBron James versus the Celtics. That means 07-08 when you ended up beating him in round 2. When you face him 2 years later or a year later. Look at every time. Cleveland and Miami, when a LeBron team has gone at it with the Boston Celtics, especially Igor, a Celtics team that had a legit chance to knock that team off. How many times, ladies and gentlemen, can you say honestly the Cavaliers or the Heat, whichever one LeBron was on at that time, basically won their game by actually outshooting and beating the Celtics straight up in the game of made field goals? Trust me, that's one thing that I hated when it came to the situation of our Big Three era with Garnett and Pierce. That the fact that pretty much once LeBron left Cleveland and ran to Miami, immediately it was basically screw the Celtics, let LeBron now and the Miami Heat be the one that goes to the finals, because they were the super team now. 3 superstars that were still, kind of in their prime, while you had Boston with 3 superstars that were closer to the end of their careers. So, regardless of how well the Boston defense is and how much more better they do when it comes to outshooting LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, we're going to make sure LeBron and them get to the free throw line double or triple the times the Celtics do, so they can basically negate whatever advantage Boston had at the free throw line. There were times back then, Igor, where we have seen where we saw pretty much the Celtics outscore LeBron and the Miami Heat by like 20 points or so, but then the free throw line would come into play, and that would basically go the route of letting them win by maybe 2 or 3 points because they had such a wide margin of free throw discrepancy that they managed to negate whatever advantage we had in the made baskets. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the only reason why. If you could tell me right now that we'd be guaranteed come playoff time, let's say, Igor, you throw the free throws out completely, that the NBA officials are not going to let no free throws be taken at all in a 7-game series between us and the Cavaliers, and I'd say we got a legitimate chance of knocking them off by that time. Because I've said it, just like I said with last night's game, regardless of how good LeBron James is, the brother is just one man. He cannot go beating an entire team without help from the rest of his guys. So if anything, you let LeBron go off. Let him get 50. Let him get 60. Let him get 70. Who cares? You stop everybody else. You stop Smith. You stop Love. You stop Corver. You stop the rest of those boys. Because once that happens, you're going to find out that LeBron James just didn't have enough in the tank in order to outscore your entire team if you keep the rest of those guys in check. But that's the thing. Even when you do that, Igor, the free throw situation just comes back into play. So with our guys right now, I'm not surprised. You know, we have the youngest team basically in the league overall. This is a season where many people feel pretty much that it's, a throwaway season, that it's all about getting those young guys the experience they need to be prepared for next season when Gordon Hayward does come back. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, this, Igor, could be the last year for LeBron James in Cleveland. So you think about it. Do you think the NBA is really going to want to risk? And you know that's in the back of the minds of all those NBA analysts. It's not only how good they think LeBron James is, but they know the NBA, when it comes to their finals, it's all about getting the best matchup, which is going to get them the highest ratings, make it where they get the most money off the commercials, all that stuff. Which team in the East is going to get them basically the best matchup against Golden State and make it where there's enough star power to go, selling tickets for $200, $300, $400 a piece? It's not going to be the Celtics, in their opinion. It's going to be LeBron James and the Cavaliers. And because of the fact that this could be the last time LeBron is in Cleveland, they're going to want to take advantage of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, trust me. And now that you got Irving, Igor, that's another thing. That's something that many people seem to forget. Now that Irving is in Boston, you got guys like Skip Bayless, Igor, who has basically said if it wasn't for Irving, LeBron wouldn't have the championship he's gotten from Cleveland. Because, LeBron was the best player, but Irving was the one that did the damage of closing. So, now LeBron James has the chance to prove that he truly does have what it takes to close the game and seal the deal. And you got the best team. That's the thing. Many people are saying that LeBron's got the best team in Cleveland he's ever had. So, you don't win this year, forget it. There are no excuses that anybody can give that brother for not getting the job done. So, Igor, I'm not surprised. Marcus Smart, we don't know how much longer we have with him on this team, especially if his shooting doesn't get better. If his shooting doesn't get better, I think he's as good as gone because Danny Ainge is not going to give him the money he wants. But giving these guys right now this type of ability is crucial because then come next season, you're going to be probably the second best team in the NBA behind the Golden State Warriors. And especially, forget it, if you get Anthony Davis in any sort of way during this offseason, an argument could be made that you might be a better team than the Golden State Warriors in this case. Because you already beat them last year, you beat them this season. And you did that without Gordon Hayward while they had all their 4 stars. Imagine, you still have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and all those guys, but then you add Gordon Hayward and Anthony Davis to the mix. So it's interesting, Igor. Danny Ainge deserves a lot of credit. The brother has proven that he's one step ahead of everybody else. That's the thing. He's one step ahead of everybody else. All the other GMs pretty much can basically say, you know, do we really want to get involved in dealing with Ainge? Because everybody that goes dealing with him ends up with a bad end of the stick in some sort of way, even though it looks like they get the best deal. Look at the Lakers right now. You gave up, a first-round pick for next year just because you wanted Lonzo Ball and you didn't want Danny Ainge to go taking him, and Danny Ainge wasn't even interested in Lonzo, and instead, Jason Tatum ends up coming to us, just about maybe 2 picks later or so, and look what happens. Lonzo has been a bust pretty much for the Los Angeles Lakers, and you don't have your first-round pick next year. You know how pissed people in LA are right now with the way that the Lakers handled that business? It's embarrassing. Danny Ainge suckered another team pretty much, Igor. I don't know where the brother gets it. Does he have some sort of ESP or a psychic or something like that working inside the offices for the Celtics? Because if that's the case, please give us the rest of the information. We won't share it with the rest of the country, but please let us know how in the world it is you do this, because we could definitely use that person's, abilities. Maybe help us win the lottery or something like that. Get a couple $1 million in our pockets. Do it, Danny Ainge. Please give us that insight, because you have suckered several GMs pretty much. You're making everybody else look bad, and I'm loving it.
Absolutely. And up to the next thing, let's discuss about what we have, and this is what we had, the winning streak. We didn't discuss about the Celtics bench. Well, we know that we have Kyrie Irving. We know that we have Al Horford, the 2 youngsters, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are driving force of the starting 5 right now, and experienced guys like Morris and Baines, 1 or 2 are rotating in that starting lineup. But how the Boston Celtics without Hayward built 16 games winning streak. Well, executives will say with the magic of Brad Stevens, but that wouldn't exist without 11 deep rotations of average and Terry's and Sammy's has made into helpful and legit role players. So it's hard to get past Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for the reasons. One is 21 and the other one is 19. They're both amazing, of course. But the band on unsung heroes behind them has speckled any potential holes that could have ended the streak. For example, Terry Rozier. It began with Rozier, and before the season, Rozier's trademark has been that he's bench player to whom Danny Ainge had seemingly irrational attachment with. He was rumors of being off limits in any trade proposal, even though Boston was shopping for upgrade. But the hints of ferocious energy on defense and the affection for sinking last-second shoots in 2016-17, shooting 36.7%, have come together this season and turned Rozier into solid backup for Kyrie Irving. 6'2" Rozier flows into under-the-basket thrones of rebounding. He is 6'7", quality that the Celtics lacked by starting Horford. In 15 games this season, Terry Rozier, in 15 games, the first 15 games, I have He had the rebounding rate of 11.2, which is the fifth best in NBA. And despite all logic, he's shooting like 32.4% overall from three. Those late quarter threes keep falling in. And the other one from the bench is Semi Ojeleye. Semi Ojeleye, we give emphasis on him, Danny. Second round pick this year's draft, became a respectful threat from the deep, but also he is making noise. He can hit in 14.1 minutes. He can do some defensive assignment and hit the threes. He is 3-and-D player. Stevens has been trusting SMU product with defending the likes of George, LeBron, Porzingis, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Greek freak perhaps is the biggest validation of 6'10" wingspan, and he has the quick feet, but can he handle lengthier players? He can guard Giannis, as resume reference to that. So, he has been very good for us, Semi Ojeleye from the bench. Daniel Theis and Aaron Baines, big man duo from the bench. Aaron Baines, Daniel Theis were two off-season additions targeting in the hopes of solidifying the defense, and for Stevens has squeezed exactly that out of them. Baines quietly led Detroit to its best defensive rating, but he replaced Andre Drummond in big moments during the later poorest games. For all the Baines' raw strength and made to bully body, his best quality on the floor is communication. Though he will likely defend against more second units this season, Baines still holds one of the Boston's best defensive individual rating, 91.2. He paired nice with Horford, and of the duo of the players that have been played more than 130 minutes together, Al and Aaron Baines have been the Boston's top defensive rating duo, and league two best defensive duo with 85.3 points allowed per 100 possessions. So Baines was less of a prize than Theis, and the concern with 25 years old into the season was that he's rookie. How soon he will be adjust to the league. Theis went undrafted in 2013 and took the talent overseas. Despite Celtics says organization been keeping eye on Theis for nearly 6 years. So Theis won the German League Best Defensive Player of the Year award, and he helped his team Brosse Bamberg a lot. And he's 6'9", 215 pounds, energy guy who can jump good rate, who can protect the rim, and who can do a lot of dunks. Shane Larkin, shout out to Larkin, who after though go to the Knicks and Nets, went overseas and he played, for Baskonia, Spain. And Larkin may be the best example of Boston's scouting system. He's the deepest guy out of the bench, and Stevens still found a way to utilize Shane Larkin. So, what is your opinion about the guys that I mentioned? Some bench heroes of the 16 games winning streak.
Well, when it comes to that, again, the guys from the bench from time to time have, stepped up. There's been some incredible play from, Larkin, like you mentioned. Daniel Theis has been one of my favorites, even though he doesn't have much of an offensive game. But you also got to be one of those guys on the, from the guard position that look to actually, get him involved by alley-ooping the ball, things like that. But his hustle is what basically gets me to enjoy him on the court. That brother is running up and down the court, is always looking, to play the defense, attack, for the blocks, no matter what, situation it is, even if it pretty much looks like the ball's about to go in, that brother is still going to run and try to block it, even if he knows that there's a chance it's going to be goaltended. Rozier, to me, has been the best offensive player off the bench. Unless Marcus Morris has been off the bench in exchange for Baines playing a starter, Rozier has been the best offensive player, in my opinion. And that's been critical to this team because Rozier has hit some big-time shots at big-time moments. Marcus Smart, like I said, he's got to get himself going. It was pretty embarrassing, not yesterday's game, but the game prior to that against Dallas, where Marcus Smart, you literally saw him with the towel, if I'm correct. I believe it was in that game, but literally with the towel, Igor, over his head, literally looking embarrassed, and depressed because of how terrible he's been playing as of late. And it's the truth, unfortunately. You're looking to try and get money from this team in order to stay here because you want a pay raise. Then missing and breaking a bunch of shots, attacking the rim just to try and turn around and force the ball off and it getting stolen, making lousy passes, dribbling the ball off your foot. None of that is going to help you if you're Marcus Smart. And that's something he's got to realize. The sooner Marcus Smart gets himself back into the type of player we know he can be when it comes to making some shots. I found it kind of interesting in Celtics game broadcaster Mike Gorman said it last night that, Marcus Smart, if, of course, I know that I'm able to watch the game. You, unfortunately, wasn't able to watch it. And I'm sure, I know many of the people in our group don't get to watch the game like I do since I live in Massachusetts. But yesterday in the game, there was a shot that Marcus Smart made where he literally shot the ball from behind the backboard, and it still went in. And Mike Gorman was like, this guy, when it comes to taking shots that are like, the shot clock going off or really difficult shots, he seems to make it. It's the easy ones and the wide open shots that he can't seem to make. Why is it that it's like that? The moment that Marcus Smart gets that, resolved and starts to realize it's the other way around, it's the ones that are wide open and uncontested you should be making, not the ones that are trick shots. This isn't the Harlem Globetrotters, Marcus. You're supposed to make the easy shots, not go making the hard ones and make the easy ones, look hard. The moment he gets that, Igor, Marcus Smart is going to be the best player off this bench because we know this brother is on a different level when it comes to the defense. That's why he plays so many minutes, especially late, because this guy is capable of playing against any person on any other team and just staying in front of them. Yesterday, you saw him against Whiteside at times and some of the bigger players from Miami. It doesn't matter whether you're a guard, a forward, or a center, he is going to stay on you if the pick and roll forces him to. But it's going to take him trying to get that offense going first. If he gets the offense rolling, then you can make an argument, Igor. If he gets his offense rolling, it might even be worth putting him in the starting lineup in some of these games against some of these teams that have the big name talent in the guard position, because Marcus Smart has already earned the respect for the most part from the officials because they know that he is a legit defender.
Well, again, when back into the summer, when some writers, I don't want to throw them under the bus, were asking questions, and one of them was claiming that Marcus Smart is better than Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart will take over the starting shooting guard position. I wrote to that guy that he's crazy, that Jaylen Brown is way much talented than Marcus Smart, and that shooting guard position is reserved starting shooting guard position for Jaylen Brown. That Jaylen Brown will elevate this season, that he will have breakup season. And I think that I hit the nail, because Jaylen Brown is having the season in which, if all stays well, the Celtics will, he can be, if Celtics stay number one team, he can be in considerations for all-star role, you know. I'm sure that in this new weird and stupid way of electioning the teams, Kyrie Irving will be all-star, obviously. Al Horford, maybe he will be selected from the bench, and Jaylen Brown can be the third all-star for the Celtics without Gordon Hayward. So that's how good Jaylen Brown is. And I really don't think that Marcus Smart will take over the games. I mean, maybe Jaylen is injured, but I think that Jaylen is having the season of his career. Another guy is having the best season of his career thus far, and this is our leader. And now we are coming to a breakdown of Kyrie Irving statistics. Best players efficiency rating in the clutch time this season. Kyrie Irving, 78. 78. Best efficiency rating. LeBron James, number 2, 46. Number 3, Porzingis, 39.6. Damian Lillard, 39.3. This is not including Miami Heat, but he was clutch too in the Miami game. But 78% efficiency rating of Kyrie. So, clutch time is usually Danny and the guys that are watching us to clarify. Clutch time is last 5 minutes of the game when the point differential is 5 or less. Kyrie Irving has been unreal. He is the first Celtics player since Larry Bird, the greatest, to have the game with 45 plus points and 5 plus assists. The other night in Dallas, 47 points and 5 or 6 assists, if I'm correct. And look at this. The final 5 minutes of the fourth quarters or overtimes. Kyrie Irving, 36 points. The whole opponent teams, 34 minutes. Kyrie Irving, field goal percent against the Dallas, 11-15. The opponent in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime, the opponent's 11 out of 36. 3 points, Kyrie Irving 3 of 5. The opponent's 3 of 19. Free throws, Kyrie Irving 11 of 12. The opponent's 9 of 11. More catch and shoot opportunities, less attempts after 7, or more dribbles, less shoots early in the shoot clock, more open looks, holding the balls less, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if Irving really goes on some offensive tiers more. And last year, Danny, Kyrie averaged 51.2 passes per game. And this year, 51.8. So he increased the passing rate. So it's not like he became suddenly Chris Paul, but that is the purpose of what he's doing. More catch and shoot opportunities, less attempts after 7 or more dribbles, less hard shooting attempts, etc., etc. So in that winning streak, the Celtics are, to sum up, the first in the NBA in wins still, 16. Warriors, Rockets, I think 13 or 14. They are first in defensive rating, 95.8. The Blazers next in defensive rating, 98.2. The Celtics are second in rebounding, 53.2. Last year we were 27th overall. Blazers are the first in rebounding, 54.4. The Celtics are first in defensive rebounding percent, 82%. Rockets next in defensive rebounding percent, 82 81.8%, 82%. The Celtics are third in the net rating, 7.3. And net rating is the differential between the offensive rating and defensive rating. The Celtics are third with 7.3 net rating. And Warriors are first with 13.1. So, Kyrie Irving in clutch time situation, 65 points, 24 out of 39 field goal percent. So more than 50%, more than 60%. 10 assists, 0 turnovers. So, I mean, I will stop there. Next, we will discuss about Kyrie Irving 47 points games. Do you think, Danny, that if the Celtics are number one team in the end of regular season, do you think that Kyrie will be candidate for the MVP, or maybe not in this strangely constructed system of voting and this strange NBA system of judging MVP players?
Will he be in consideration? Yes. Will he win it? I don't really think so. And it's unfortunate because, in my opinion, for one, ladies and gentlemen, nobody from Golden State should be eligible. Just right off the bat. Because it's 4 superstars, for Christ's sakes, in that team. So none of them really have to go doing anything that's anywhere near what guys like Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, James Harden, or any of these other guys that have to carry their teams to, the promised land pretty much have to do. So unless one of those guys, Curry, Durant, is completely having such a historic season where they're blowing away, not only the rest of the guys on their team, but blowing everybody else in the NBA away. Let's say, for example, let's say Curry basically is going the route of averaging, 35 points a game, while the next one closest to him is 18, and the next one, from his team, in this case I'm talking, and the next highest person in the NBA overall is averaging 21 points a game. Something like that, Igor, I'd say okay. Because that's a historic season. That's something you really wouldn't expect someone to average something like that. It's not normal. So, it's understandable if you give it to him. But we all know for a fact, none of those brothers over there in Golden State are going to have a season like that where their numbers are head and shoulders way ahead of everybody else on their team. Curry and Durant, in this case, are the 2 best players on that team, and their numbers are always going to stay too close to each other to where you can pretty much, basically, it's going to stay too close, Igor, for those two, where nobody can really say, oh, this one was more important than that one on that team. Thompson and Green, they can just be immediately, removed from the discussion. Because Thompson, he's like Ray Allen, just a 3-point shooter for the most part. Green, it's just one guy that hits a few shots wide open here and there, does nothing but really talk his mouth, run his mouth and do a bunch of, trash talking, and, gets himself into trouble. And of course goes the route of kicking people in the nuts. But, like I said, this is a situation where nobody in Golden State really should be eligible, which means you gotta get down to the next, few teams that are behind them. Who in the NBA would be eligible? We all know LeBron James would always be eligible because LeBron James, is the one that makes that Cavaliers team. If he's not there, even with the roster they got right now, Igor, with Wade, Love, Smith, Korver, Derrick Rose, and all these guys, Isaiah Thomas, of course, will be coming back in a few months. Even with those guys, Cleveland does not make it to the NBA Finals unless LeBron is there. The Houston Rockets, if James Harden isn't there doing what he does, even with Chris Paul being over there, that team doesn't become a team where everybody thinks they could very well end up being a Western Conference finalist. Us, right now, we made it last year with Isaiah Thomas to the Eastern Conference Finals, but with Kyrie Irving, if you don't have Irving here, there ain't no way anybody can look at you and say you have a shot to knock off LeBron and them come playoff time. You got a few people that feel, yeah, there's always a shot. Do we think you're going to do it? No. But you have a shot. Last year, Isaiah Thomas unfortunately was injured and couldn't play in any of the 4 games, or 5 games actually, that we played in that Eastern Conference Finals against LeBron and them. So who knows what could have ended up happening if Isaiah would have been healthy. But come on. If the Celtics, knowing there's no Hayward, you're playing with pretty much a majority of your team being guys who are first or second year players compared to LeBron's team that has pretty much nothing but veterans. Same thing with James Harden and the Rockets. If you finish with the best record in the East, or even the best record in the NBA, let's say, for whatever reason, there ain't no reason why anybody should not be voting for Kyrie Irving. Now, we know it, unfortunately. It's the fans. The fans are the ones getting to vote, so people in Cleveland aren't going to vote for Kyrie Irving because they got an issue with him. Just like we know people in Boston aren't going to vote for LeBron because Irving plays for us, so we're going to vote for him. And same thing with Houston. Houston people are going to vote for James Harden because he represents them. So it comes down to those other cities and basically how those people feel about those teams and those superstars. I've said it all along. Just like with the All-Star, situation and the voting for the All-Star, players. You shouldn't let the fans get involved in any sort of way. It should be only the players and the coaches who get to make that decision. Because at least those players, at least those people, they manage to keep their mind and really think about it legitimately, who truly deserves that spot. Now, I have said also when it comes to, say, the All-Star situation, if you're going to let the fans decide this, how about you do what they used to do in baseball? Make it where the winning conference in terms of the All-Star game gets the right to have their representative get the home court advantage in the finals, regardless of the record. You do that, then people will start thinking a little bit smarter, Igor. Just because my favorite guy, my team is Miami and Hassan Whiteside is the best player, I got to consider what's going to happen in the finals. If my guys make it, they get home court advantage if the East wins. So I'm going to try to make sure I get the best players who truly deserve to be there in there. Pretty much, it's the same thing every year, Igor. The same players every year get voted into the situation with the All-Star, starting lineup thanks to the fans. Unfortunately, the NBA has to do something about what's going on. Not only with the MVP award, it's the same thing with Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, all those other things that fans might have some sort of impact on. The fans are biased when it comes to thinking about whether or not their team has a chance to actually win an award, or one of their players can win an award, one of their favorite players. They don't really look to who truly deserves it. Until the NBA goes the route of making changes, Igor, I really don't stress over it. Come on, why do you think I don't even bother to watch the All-Star game anymore? Because it's become a joke, unfortunately. The All-Star game has become a joke. The games you don't really see, think about what it was like when we first got Garnett and Ray Allen. Think of how close that game, how competitive that game was back then between the East and the West. Now, come on, you're seeing 190 to 180, 150, 140 games taking place because nobody wants to play any defense. It's a highlight reel. It's ridiculous, in my opinion, and the league is going to have to do something. If not, the ratings, in my opinion, the fans that really don't like it have to boycott. Boycott the All-Star game, boycott, All-Star weekend altogether, and pretty much show, hit the NBA where it hurts, Igor, which is in their pockets. Hit them in their pockets, and then the owners and the commissioner and all of them will start to actually, realize that, maybe we're going about this the wrong way. Think, the fans in the NFL are doing it. They're doing it right now with the situation of the players in the NFL protesting, and so fans are not watching the NFL games, and it's causing the ratings to go down, and so the owners are losing money, because of the fact that the ratings are not up. People, organizations that basically fund the NFL, that partner with them, are walking away from the NFL because they feel basically it's not a good look. And look what ended up happening. The commissioner and the owners had to start stepping in and start taking it upon themselves to try and stop what was going on. The fans and the NBA fans got to do the same thing. If you don't do anything about it, don't complain. Like I said, that's why I don't even watch it anymore. I don't bother to watch, because of the fact that I know in this situation, it's just going to be the same thing every year.
Okay, now let's talk first about Kyrie Irving's magnificent performance in Dallas, because you will agree that, Danny, that he deserved that. And later we will discuss about one interesting call at the end of Toronto Raptors game that we won by 1 point. The offensive foul of Jason Tatum. So Kyrie Irving, 47 points. Again, the first Celtics after Larry Bird's 45 points. And Irving's remarkable shooting pushed the Celtics winning streak to number 16. And sadly, this streak is snapped the last night. So the Celtics practically trailed the 13 points in the fourth. And they reached another level after that to pass the Dallas Mavericks in overtime, 110-102 in Dallas. This is extremely difficult. This is the floor where the Celtics lost so many times during the past couple years. And Marcus Smart delivered a money hustle sequence late in the fourth. Jason Tatum stopped Harrison Barnes on the final possession of regulations, and it was remarkable. Jaylen Brown hit go-ahead jumper in overtime, but it was Kyrie, and again, who closed the door shut. The point guard dominated crunch time, outscoring Mavs by himself, 17-15, over the last 11:30 of the game, including overtime. So, when the Celtics fell behind 4 points early in the overtime, Irving scored the next 3, Boston's bucket, and the Celtics got the lead by 2, 104-102, including finding Brown for the jumper over Dirk Nowitzki, and that shot gave Boston's lead 104-102 in the overtime. Though Jaylen Brown continued his good stretch with 22 points, 8 of 13 shooting, Irving stole the show with 47 points, 16 out of 22 shooting. And again, in Basketball Reference database, only 15 games in the last 15 years, you could find the player score 47 or more with 22 shots. And again, 47 and more points with 22 shots or less. Only players: Willie Burton, 53, Kevin Martin, 50, Damian Lillard, 49, Karl Malone, 49, Amare Stoudemire, 49, Manu Ginobili, 48, James Harden, 48, Dwayne Wade, 48, Adrian Dantley, 47, Josh Howard, 47. LeBron James, 47. Karl Anthony Towns, 47. John Wall, 47. Andrew Wiggins, 47. And of course, our Kyrie Irving, 47. Remarkable achievement. So, not many players scored 47 or more with 22 field goals or fewer, like Kyrie Irving. So, Irving's shooting make was celestial. After the Celtics trailed by 4, he froze Dirk Nowitzki in the pick and roll and made the runner high off the glass, pulled up mid-range jumper against Dallas zone, and finally passed Yogi Ferrell for the low post 2+1. That one was beauty, giving the Boston 5 points lead. And the way Irving was cooking, poor Dirk Nowitzki had no chance to defend that. So not many guys can control their dribble enough to push out those shoots like Irving over Dirk, or to do that to Yogi Ferrell. And Stevens praised, of course, Irving. And over the last couple of contests, Irving has used every bit of that game, compiling outrageous 77 points of 34 field goal attempts, and in Dallas and Atlanta. So the 2-game run, Atlanta and Dallas, was strong enough to lift his true shooting percentage from 53.1 in those 2 games. That shooting percentage, true shooting percentage, was 58.2. He scored 77 points in Atlanta and in Dallas out of 34 field goals. 58.2% shooting climb seems impossible deep into the regular season, despite some flukes. Irving is suddenly on the pace for the second best true shooting percentage of his career. And then, the Mavericks threw Boston's already mediocre offense into the switching and zone, because they were switching from zone defense to man, and it was really puzzled the Celtics offense when they went 13 points lead. And I must give credit to Rick Carsley, ex-Celtics player, because he dialed number of plays to unleash Harrison Barnes against switching smaller defenders. For a while, Boston's streak appeared in serious jeopardy. The Celtics have lived on the edge, and they were seriously on the edge in Dallas. They were down 13 in the fourth. They just didn't seem to have enough energy. They did have enough energy to fight and to get overtimes in which they won. The Celtics defense held Dallas to 15 points and 6 of 21 shooting in the final 13 minutes of game. Tatum benefited with a couple of fast break buckets. Smart redeemed himself after miserable shooting in the first half with important 3. And Irving continued to ride on his hot wave. And his clutch statistic is phenomenal. In the final 5 minutes, within the 5 points or less this season, Kyrie Irving, 38 minutes, 65 points, 24 out of 39 field goal shooting, 24 out of 39, 13 out of 16 free throws, 11 draw fouls, 32 points in the paint, 10 assists, 0 turnovers, plus minus plus 40. The most clutch player at the moment in the NBA. The most clutch player in the NBA. Dude is literally definition of the clutch player. And Kyrie stayed focused on the ground. He praised the team. But without shadow of a doubt, if Kyrie is not member of the Celtics, this 16 winning streak would not be possible. What can you say about Dallas game and Kyrie performance? Extraordinary performance that will be remembered all times, in my opinion, Danny.
Well, it's unfortunate that, it ended up having to come down to that. against what is technically the worst team in the league. In my opinion, I felt that Brad Stevens kind of overlooked the Dallas Mavericks in that game. Because regardless of record, the Dallas Mavericks still have some legitimate talent on that team. Some veteran players who know what it takes to get the job done. Dirk Nowitzki, of course, being the main man on that team. And he gave, in my opinion, he gave the bench too many minutes in that game. The bench played the role of giving us that giant deficit, because to start the game, the Celtics starters had the lead over the Mavericks. But once Brad Stevens started going the route of making the substitutions, the league quickly ended up going back down, and ultimately we fell behind. And again, this is where I say somebody on the bench has to wake up. There was too many wide open shots that were being given up, especially to Barea, for example. Brad Stevens, the bench, in my opinion, once you see that the bench is not gelling right, you gotta make a sacrifice when it comes to our guys' minutes, the starters, and get somebody else back in there. Yeah, we don't have superstars like the Golden State Warriors do, but you gotta have somebody, because right now, the only good player that's really bringing anything offensively on the bench is Terry Rozier. The rest of your guys are either just doing it offensively or virtually doing nothing whatsoever when they're on the floor. So that game, the fact that you even had to go to overtime and had to come back in that type of position, you're lucky. You are lucky that you ended up winning that game, because you could have very well lost it at the end there with the last second shot that the Mavericks had. And of course, Kyrie Irving, it took some big time shots from him, not only in the fourth quarter, but also in the overtime for you to end up getting the win. Many people admitted it. That was a game that the Mavericks should have won, and it's the truth. You cannot go overlooking. Right now, this team is not good enough to go overlooking anybody. And that includes Brad Stevens. He's got to realize that. You do not have a Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson type trio on this team that pretty much can just, turn it on with a snap of a finger and immediately get you back into a game and blow out a team, within a half. This game, this team, it has to be a 48-minute, game plan and a 48-minute effort in order to actually get the victory. And when they do that, they look like one of the top teams in the league. Like I said, last night was a game where you didn't have that effort the entire 48 minutes, and you got beat because of it, because you were facing a team that, like Dallas, had nothing to lose. If they get beat, nobody says anything negative about it, because, come on, you're behind the Celtics in the standings at this point. You're a young team yourself. Nobody's expecting you to do much this season, unlike what many people think the Celtics should be able to do. So you got nothing to lose like the Celtics do. Brad Stevens has got to realize that. If the bench starts blowing a lead, you have got to make something and make some sort of an adjustment and get somebody in there. Now, of course, I'm not saying, you play your starters 40-something minutes, but come on. You cannot afford to have, let's say, all four of the main starters, because we know whoever starts at the center position, Igor, whether it's Morris or Baines, that person is not as critical as Irving, Horford, Horford, Irving, Brown, and Tatum. We know that. Morris is more critical in that starting lineup than Baines is offensively to help the other guys, in this case, get their shots to go down and make it easier for them. But when it comes to being on the floor with the bench lineup, you don't need Morris and Baines to be in there to help that bench. You need the rest of the starters in order to get that job done. So I truly hope we don't see that again against that team. because you do not see that team, competing with many of the other top teams in the NBA. And that's the problem. That's the mark of a champion, Igor. The teams that you're supposed to beat, you basically go out there, you beat them in convincing fashion. The teams that are right up there and are also competing for a championship are the ones you get into those close matchups with, and you live with the result. Whether you win by 1, they win by 1, you win by 10, they win by 10, you live with the result. But the teams that you know you're head and shoulders better than are the ones you don't be losing to, if you want to call yourself a top team in the league. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's what this team basically right now is saying. That we're the top team in the league. Al Horford pretty much admitted it yesterday after the game that it was a terrible performance by them. And like I said, Miami, they're a playoff team, but that is not a team you should be losing to. Dallas is not a team that you should be losing to. Orlando, all these other teams, it's only because they're in the Eastern Conference, and the Eastern Conference, like I said before, there's only 4 to 5 teams, if you want to throw Milwaukee in there, that are legit. Cleveland, Boston, Washington, Toronto, Milwaukee. Those are the only 5 teams that are legit in this case. The rest of the league, or should I say the rest of the conference, is a complete joke in this situation. You can get teams in the Eastern Conference making it to the playoffs, Igor, with losing records in this season coming, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, this team is a young team. They're prone to slip up every once in a while, but you cannot have that too many times where you're falling behind like that to some of the worst teams in the league and hoping that Kyrie Irving is going to bail you out by going into a Superman type mode and then just taking over the game. Because at some point, as they say, just like in the comics, at some point, Superman does get beat in some of those comics, and it takes him having to try again to ultimately beat the villain. And last night, basically was it. Kyrie Irving didn't have what it took in the tank, along with Al Horford and the other veterans, to get this team to come back from another major deficit to get past the Miami Heat. But you're lucky. You're lucky you got it against Dallas, because, ladies and gentlemen, that would have been an embarrassment. An embarrassment to lose to Dallas, knowing that they got the worst record in the league. Yeah, you overlooked them, and that's the thing. And that, again, Igor, is on Brad Stevens. You should not overlook any of these teams that have any veteran, players. Teams that have young players, like the Lakers, for example, okay, you don't want to take them serious because they're just getting a bunch of first and second year players. That's fine. But a team like Dallas is a dangerous team, despite what their record might say, and they proved it. Next time around, you have to be prepared. Don't be messing around with them.
Mm-hmm. What is your take? Let's try to recap a little last night's loss. Why we lost again? Why our Tommy Hanson said the last night that the Celtics looked mentally exhausted in Miami, and I can agree with him. But we dug ourselves deep into the hole by trailing 20 early in the game. And unlike some other games during the 16 games winning streak, we could not climb back at the top of that deep hole. And we lost 98-104. And like I said previously, you emphasized Marcus Morris and Aaron Baines switch into the starting lineup of Brad Stevens. I said that Marcus Morris was questionable prior to the game. He was game time decision, and it was questioned, is he going to play at all this game, you know, and he played after all with the pain in his knee, and he played from the bench. And you said about the Baines, and you said that in your opinion, obviously, Baines should be starter. Now, I don't have intention to defend Stevens. I agree with you. I mean, Baines should be starter in majority of the games, unless you play, for example, Dwight Howard. Okay? You should not allow Al Horford to bang with Dwight Howard, or Marcin Gortat, or Robin Lopez, or Brook Lopez. In those situations, you should start Baines at 5. You should let Horford operate at the perimeter because he's the best there. And after 5 minutes, you sub in Baines with Morris when the opponent coach sub out Dwight Howard, and you keep the balance on the court. That is just my opinion, you know. So, what is your take from Miami Heat game? What was the key why we lost the game? Obviously, all the reporters emphasized Dion Waiters' ISO game, but again, this is a joke. Dion Waiters, give me a break. What did he do during his career, except he's going to be, known after the retirement as the man who played besides LeBron James? What are his records? What did he do? What did he accomplish in the NBA? Absolutely nothing. So give me a break about the stories about ISO Dion Waiters, monster Dion Waiters. Bravo for the game. Applause. Give him the trophy for the game. But, I don't think that Dion Waiters is the only reason why we lost the game. Am I right?
Yeah, technically, in my opinion, as I said, we lost the game because some of our guys simply didn't show up. Al Horford being one of them. Brad Stevens, in my opinion, because he was so worried about Whiteside, made the decision to sacrifice offense for defense. But that's the issue. Baines in this situation is so much not, how can I say it like this? He is so limited in offense that Brad Stevens completely forgot that by doing that, exactly.
Logging the paint in the pick and roll coverage. We talked about that on the show. And I said prior to the season, before the season started, he is good man, but pick and roll Irving Baines reminds me on pick and roll Kyrie Thompson, and that was really terrible pick and roll, because he can score from the mid-range Baines. We are not trashing him, but our team just doesn't have enough space to operate on the perimeter, right?
Well, not only that, but also, in a night like last night where your shots are just not falling from 3, not falling from the mid-range, the next best option for you, if you're not hot shooting-wise, is to get to the rim and get to the free throw line. And you're not making it easy on yourself by putting a player who not only takes only 3 shots, but also hesitates to shoot, in this case, from the mid-range. And so guys who are defending him, like Whiteside, can easily just walk away from him, get towards the hoop, and make it where if anybody, Irving, Thompson, should I say Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, Rozier, if any of those guys attack because they managed to get away from their guy, Whiteside is right there. So now you gotta get around Whiteside or bang into him and hope that he doesn't block your shot or hope the officials call a foul for you, because the paint now was clogged. Last night we saw several occasions where there was 2 or 3 defenders in the paint because one Celtic player managed to get near the hoop with the ball. You know, you need to make it where you got somebody who is willing to shoot. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. What made Kevin Garnett so special when he was here with Rajon Rondo and that group that we had? It was that Rondo would attack, draw the defense in because they didn't want to give up the layup, kick it right back out to Garnett, who would be wide open like Baines, but Garnett would actually shoot the ball and make the jumper. Meaning, pretty much, you want to keep defending Rondo so he doesn't get a layup. Brother, you're leaving me wide open, and I'm just going to keep making the shot after and after and after just because, you keep going the route of leaving me. But Baines is not that type of player. Baines is somebody that just goes out there to bang into you with his body so that you don't get it, by him to get to the rim. And Brad Stevens forgot that. Yeah. Having him in there for Whiteside is one thing, but come on, Igor. I think you can even agree with me. Whiteside is not no offensive juggernaut like a LeBron James in this case. You cannot tell me that Marcus Morris and Al Horford couldn't hold their own against Whiteside last night. And make it where maybe he just has to, force, some jump shots, settle for jump shots and threes. Because that's really all Baines did last night, was basically make it where Whiteside didn't get to the rim. You can't tell me you couldn't accept Whiteside having a little bit more of an easier time in exchange for you having an easier time on the offense, knowing that it was only going to help the entire starting lineup. Instead, you made it where layups pretty much were not available last night for us. And then finally, the second half, because the first half, Igor, forget it. The Celtics couldn't get a call to save their life with that officiating crew. You had guys being shoved to the ground, guys, being called for offensive fouls because players were right up in front of them and weren't giving them space to move. Flagrant fouls being called. Second half was the half where the Celtics finally started getting the whistle blown in their favor. And I kept saying it. Attack the rim. Now you got to attack because that team's in the penalty and you're going to have to make your comeback from the free throw line because you didn't get yourself into an offensive rhythm in the first half. And that's exactly what happened. Brown, Tatum, Irving, Smart, Morris, all of them started attacking more and forcing the issue for the officials to start calling the fouls, and they started chipping away at the free throw line. And once that happened, the three-point area started opening up a bit more, and guys like Morris, Brown, Rozier all started nailing the shots because they were more open now, and they felt more confidence to shoot. But that's the issue. One man, one decision, ladies and gentlemen, changed the outcome of that game last night. Because you didn't lose by much. But you can't tell me if Morris would have played more minutes than what he did last night by playing in the starter role, he couldn't have basically helped maybe Al Horford by making it more easier for Al Horford to shoot by giving Horford some more open shots rather than Horford having to be the one banging down low or having to deal with guys like Whiteside on him. So I blame Stevens just for that. If Baines is not going to help you on the offense, and the offense is limited. Now, like you said, Igor, going against Dwight Howard, someone big like that, it's a different story. I would understand it because Baines is a bigger body, and those guys, Dwight Howard is all about being underneath the rim and just going for dunks and layups because we all know the brother can hit a jump shot to save his life, So going against those guys with Baines is one thing. But if you're not playing someone like that, their brain is pretty much wired up to where it's only dunks and layups for them, like a Dwight Howard, if you're not smart enough to realize that unless you're playing someone like that Morris is basically got to be the one starting because you got to force whoever's in the paint out of the paint so like that the other guys can get to the rim. That I don't know what you've been watching your entire life. If you say you're someone that's been watching basketball for 20, 30, 40 years, like some of those members in our group have been saying, that was the only thing I blame Brad Stevens for. Al Horford, okay, one game, maybe you deserve a pass because you have had some big time games during this stretch. But like I said, you cannot continue to afford to get down to these teams the way you did last night. And again, Miami is a playoff team. That was not a team you should have been taking lightly and basically, looking at them and falling asleep. Because that's pretty much what you did. A lot of the guys looked like they were asleep last night and didn't really bring their A game. So that's on Brad Stevens also. If your team isn't ready for a game like that against a playoff team, then you're the one responsible. Because you should be telling these guys, just like I said about Dallas, you can't be falling asleep on these guys because these guys have proven before that they can knock off almost anyone on any given night. They did it last year a few times, picking up some major upsets. What makes you think it won't be any different this season? Knowing that Miami right now, in their opinion, beating teams like you, Cleveland, Golden State, Houston, OKC, is the only way they get any respect because of how many times they slip up against the weaker teams.
Okay. We are running out of clock. We are going to try to offer you 2 or 3 subjects or topics or articles, or we are going to try to talk about Toronto Raptors win. The win was great, and the win was specific because we defeated Toronto Raptors by defense on DeMar DeRozan by Jaylen Brown. But prior to that play, the last shoot of DeRozan, and I must say that Toronto is trying to change their offense. They're trying to implement the new elements like threes, but at the end of the game, practically their whole offense is put the ball into DeRozan's hands, and he will, by isolations, he will create you bucket. DeRozan had terrible shooting night, but also the credits for that goes to terrific Celtics defense. Now, at the last minute, one foul was called on Jason Tatum, on the Van Vliet, Raptors point guard Fred Van Vliet. After Boston Celtics fans strongly disagreed with the call on the floor at that time that it occurred, the NBA has handed down an official ruling on offensive foul that was charged to rookie forward Jason Tatum in the closing seconds of their win over Toronto Raptors Sunday afternoon. While fans certainly believe that Raptors guard Van Vliet was flopping once he went to the ground after high ripped through by Tatum, the NBA saw the thing differently after taking the time to review the video following the buzzer. According to the league last 2 minutes report, the NBA decided that Tatum was correctly called for offensive foul for making contact with Van Vliet's face and affecting his ability to defend the play. So, fortunately for Tatum and the Celtics, this offensive foul didn't cost them the victory, as the Boston has run out the league best 16-win streak after starting the season 0-2. And Jared Weiss from Celtics Flyers wrote, the NBA report confirmed that Jason Tatum was correctly called for offensive foul on Van Vliet because he was making contact with Van Vliet's face with the elbow and affecting his ability to defend the play, aka elbowing Van Vliet in the face. Since it appears the Jason Tatum offensive foul call was controversial, let's clarify that it was without question the correct call. Tatum swung his elbow knowing the defender was near his path of motion. Just because it's not intentional doesn't mean it's not an offensive foul. Now, Tommy Kenshon was going on that play, how offensive player should be allowed room to swing his arms. Otherwise, he is impossible. He's in impossible situation to move the offensive player, because that is the thing. Neither defender or offensive player has the right to automatically do anything in the basketball. As long as one of the players, defender or offensive player, isn't in the air, both players enter a give and take as long as proper non-foul position takes place. Both of them, Tatum and Van Vliet, offensive player and defensive player, had their feet planted on the ground at that play. So that means that they get the right defensive position here first by Van Vliet. So Van Vliet was technically in the right defensive stance first, which makes his entirety of that space his. That space in front of his head is his space because he didn't get there illegally, okay? He is technically standing there legally, which means it's the offensive dribbler's responsibility to bypass the defender in that situation. Bypass the defender without initiating any illegal contacts, okay? So, if the scenario called for it, such as dribbler losing balance a bit, the defender could theoretically position himself legally on the top of the prone dribbler. It is then the dribbler's responsibility to either pass the ball, call the timeout, or do his ninja way out of this position. He can just rip an elbow through the defender nuts. I don't think offensive players should get a big bubble, but being able to switch the ball from left side of the body to the right side of the body be the thing they should be able to do. Okay? To switch the ball from left side to right side of the body. That is what offensive player should be able to do in this position. And Tommy has right for me. The defender was 6 inches away and he tried to move the ball to the other side of his body as little space and he possibly could. So I don't want to see this play as the as the commonplace. I don't want to discuss again on this show the same play because this is ridiculous. The rule is this. Okay, the rules are this. The dribbler must be in control of his body at all times. If illegal contact occurs in this situation, if the defender is in the right defending position, planted the both legs on the ground, it is dribbler's responsibility if any illegal contact occurs. But again, like Tommy said, those rules in this situation, in my opinion, are giving undeserved advantage to the defensive player. Okay? And I think we will agree, you and me both, Daniel, basketball is a game in which the visitors are coming to the game to watch the offensive players do the dribbles and scoring the baskets. Okay? They are not coming to see one blitz drawing the charge or one blitz, flopping. So something must be changed. Those rules and the other rules, out of bounds rules, I think that they are ridiculous. What is your opinion? To cut the long story short.
Well, again, now you know why I say technically the league will be better off not having any fouls or free throws being called for either team unless it's a major, thing. Like a flagrant foul where someone throws a punch, gives a little blow, shoves somebody into the audience, something like that. Because unfortunately, everything, Igor, is a judgment call from these refs.
Yep.
And, the NBA tries to do what they can to protect these officials from criticism by, finding the coach, finding the players, finding GMs, finding the owners. But they forget that these officials are humans, just like those players, those coaches, the general managers, and the owners are. And they are prone to having their own feelings for certain teams and for certain players. So they can be just as easily influenced by what team and what players they are officiating the game for. We've seen it. One of the most controversial is the offensive charge blocking foul situation. That little circle inside the paint area. If you're outside it and somebody takes you down, they're the ones call for it. But if you're inside it, you're the one responsible. How many times have we seen the officials make a call because of the fact that it's against a player who runs into a superstar, and so the superstar goes down, yet replay shows the superstar was in the restricted area, so it should have been the other way around. The officials, unfortunately, they have as much of an influence on these games as the fans and as the players themselves do. And the NBA just doesn't realize that. You have teams who truly deserve to win some of these games, losing because the officials get involved and give the other team an advantage at the free throw line only because they have one player more in terms of star power than another team does. It's unfortunate, Igor, that it has come down to this. That's what it takes. Because in those situations, you're literally, you still have to make your free throws, but you're literally giving those players and their team points. It's not like in the NFL where, where a penalty is called and all it does is push you back a few yards and make you have to keep, earn it again or something like that. No, you're giving points pretty much to those teams and their superstar players by calling the fouls against the other team. In my opinion, Igor, a foul should just mean pretty much the ball goes back to you and that's it. You don't get no free throws whatsoever in this case, and there's no fouling out. That's how it has to go in this situation. Forget the free throws, make these teams earn it, and prove that they can be the best team by just simply being the ones that actually execute the best on that given night. We do not need to see LeBron James, for example, beat the Celtics 99-98, but then you find out that his team, like I said, takes 40 free throws to the Celtics 20 and ends up outscoring them by 15 at the line because of it. You know, if you're going to do anything to prevent this, make it where the free throws are removed, and that all you do is give the ball to the other team when a call basically is made against, you know, a penalty is made or a foul is made. It's that simple. Don't do anything that you feel, especially those calls like I just mentioned, the ones that are right there blocking or charging calls, because those things are so controversial and they're so close at times that you can't even tell which way should it go. Now, another way to do it, Igor, expand the instant replay. Think, the NFL, the instant replay is all game long. So if they feel that there's a call that has to be reviewed or a play that has to be reviewed, they go ahead and they review it, regardless if it takes the game 6 hours to finish. Well, do the same thing in the NBA. If you feel there's a foul called that might be controversial, something like that, you do it for all the shots. Why not do it for the officiating and make sure the officiating gets everything right? Don't be making it, you know, think. We saw that, I believe, in the game yesterday or the game in Dallas, where the Celtics, ladies and gentlemen, were asking the officials on their final possession to, you know, review the clock. And you can see them literally going like that, telling them review it because they felt that they had more time on the clock, or at least should have had more time on the clock. And what did the referees do, Igor? They ignored Brad Stevens and the Celtic players and let them go without, you know, the extra time. Even though the replay, you know, the Celtics broadcast on Comcast Sportsnet out here showed it and showed they should have had 1.7 seconds, yet the officials only gave them 0.8 seconds. You know, that's nearly a second difference in this case that you could have given the Celtics if you would have reviewed the clock like you were supposed to. And why? Tell me, Igor, do you think if that's Golden State or Cleveland and LeBron or Curry and them are asking, or one of their coaches is asking, review that, do you think the officials ignore them and say, no, we're not going to review it? You know, that's the thing here. Unless these officials are going to start going 100% even and they start getting fined for their mishaps, that, you know, it's not going to change. So if that's the case, fine. Make it where their calls aren't going to have a major impact at all. Make it where the team still has to make their shots to win and get rid of the free throws.
Okay, and we are running out of time, and we have only time to announce the next games. Our next audio show will be on December 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can listen it on blogtalkradio.com or iTunes page Celtics Talk Radio, or by your Apple. And you can go to Celtics Talk Radio page, Facebook, or Wimbledon Green Celtics Fans Forum, and or our Twitter account Celtics Talk Radio STR capital letters, or our Instagram account Celtics Talk Radio, and there you can get informations about the next audio shows. The next audio show will be December 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern, with the two guests, the 3-hour show. So you will be happy with the show, I hope. And until then, we have the 3 games and 4 games actually. And one note that all games will be broadcasted live play-by-play in our page with Green Celtics Fans Forum. Daniel, the next games are Orlando Magic Friday, November 24th in TD Garden. Then Saturday, November 25th, Indiana in Indianapolis. Back-to-back game, tricky game, 8 p.m. Eastern. Then Monday, 27th, Detroit Pistons, number 2 team at Eastern Conference. Really strong game in Garden. November 27th, Monday, 7:30. And finally, Thursday, November 30th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You will have 76ers in Garden. So those 4 games we will recap on Friday, December 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern. Danny, you have back-to-back games, Orlando, in Boston, and in Indiana, in Indianapolis. Tricky game. What do you think the Celtics will achieve in those back-to-back games? Will they be hard to regroup after the loss and after the Thanksgiving, or do you think that they will get the things done? And after that, we get Andre Drummond and Harris and Ivory Bradley Monday night, Detroit. This game will really be a good game. What do you think?
Well, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we go 4-0. But 3-1, pretty much in my opinion, is the least that you should be going in this case, because Detroit is the only one on that list you just mentioned that I feel could be a little bit of a test, especially knowing that you got Avery Bradley out there. That team, is a pretty legit team overall. Kind of like Miami, a team that's going to make the playoffs in all likelihood. You need to be in a position where you are prepared when you meet them. Orlando, you should win knowing that you're in Boston. You just lost to Miami, and I'm sure, like I said, some of these guys are going to be furious with their performances in the last game. Now, Indiana, that team is a team that's going nowhere this season, unfortunately for them. So you shouldn't be losing to them, just like you shouldn't have lost to Miami or even been in a game that close like against Dallas. So that's 2 wins you should have. And in the final game, like I said, the only back-to-back you have is the first 2 games. So if you lose to Indy while looking tired, okay, that's an understandable situation. Even though we can all say, this is a young team, not a team that's old and got a bunch of veterans. So a back-to-back shouldn't be affecting you that much. So 4-0 is what basically I wouldn't be surprised if we get it, but there is no excuse for going 2-2 or worse. 3-1 is the minimum you should be going during this 4-game stretch.
I agree, and I'm looking forward to only loss in this stretch against Detroit. I'm not saying that we will lose, just saying that this is potentially loss. I cannot imagine the losses. I think that we are better team that Magic and Pacers, and there is no excuse for losing any of those games. And we are better team than Philadelphia, of course. And that was all in this video chat. I enjoyed, and I really hope that our fans will enjoy watching this. We had pretty good conversations. Again, happy Thanksgiving to you, Danny, and to all the Celtics fans and their families, and all NBA fans in general that are watching this video. Of course, happy Thanksgiving, guys, and all the best to you and to your families. Tomorrow, tune in to our page, We Bleed Green Celtics Fans Forum. We will do Orlando Magic and Boston Celtics from TD Garden live play-by-play by Danny. And I will do the color comments, statistics, and of course, we will be back again with the 2 guests on December 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern with our audio show. Find us. This show tomorrow, Friday, will be uploaded at our YouTube channel, Celtics Talk Radio YouTube channel. You can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, Celtics Talk Radio, also official page at the Facebook, We Bleed Green Celtics Fans Forum, other page at the Facebook, at the iTunes Celtics Talk Radio. We are also at the Apple. We are pretty much everywhere. And until the next show, audio show, December 1st, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, I'm wishing you all happy Thanksgiving, and I'm wishing you to celebrate this American holiday in peace with your families and your loved ones. So that would be all. Have a good night. Thanks for watching us. Keep on watching us. We will be better and better. We promise you that. Until then, Danny and Igor are wishing you good night and happy Thanksgiving. That's all. Danny?
So again, ladies and gentlemen, December 1st is our next show. Again, it was a nice 2 hours we had here. Hopefully everything worked out well. No, I'm using a new microphone this time, so hopefully the audio for me was a little bit better around on this case. But again, happy Thanksgiving. I know my family was upstairs watching the parade from New York, the Macy's parade and all of that. So hopefully you're all having a safe holiday and no issues taking place for you and your families. And again, Celtic fans, tomorrow night, the game against the Orlando Magic, I will have the play-by-play coverage. And our boys, like I said, I can almost guarantee it, they're going to get back on track tomorrow night.
Have a good night. The end. Okay? So, I mean, pretty much we achieved everything. We didn't